Okay, ladies, I have just watched the video that I've recorded that follows this, and I felt compelled to have this introduction because basically it's 20 minutes and it's explaining the things in my life that led me up to almost making the final decision to move here. And it's really about the shit that went on in my life, and the reason I almost wanted to re-record it because it's all about me and what happened in my life, but this is uncomfortable. And if you don't like it, then don't watch it and just let me know in the comments. But I caught myself and I want to go ahead and post it because whether it's retirement or a divorce or a death or a move or kids moving out of the house or back into the house. These big life moments can find us making different life choices that maybe we would or would not have made otherwise. And I just wanted to explain, what was happening in my life and some of the things that I was thinking through in getting to the point of deciding to move here. So, it is a little bit uncomfortable putting it all out there, and I don't want it to come across as me like airing dirty laundry. And anyway, so that is it. 20 minutes of kind of what's leading me here, and I welcome your feedback and your comments and questions. All right, thanks. Bonjour mes amis. So rather than doing several shorter 5-minute videos culminating in exactly what brought me here, how I got here to France, I decided to do one big whole enchilada of a video. So this is going to be a little bit longer than most, but rather than separating it out, I thought I would just get the whole story out. So bear with me. I'd love to have your feedback if you'd like to know anything more about anything that I covered today. So here goes. In 2016 was really a turning point. So I was working full-time, a lot of travel, and my mom was in memory care in the Austin area where my sister was living. I was in Dallas. And it got to be too much for her to manage on her own. She worked full time, as did I. So in 2016, I made the decision to move to Austin to help my sister Karen care for my mom. So that just entailed a whole lot of stuff, right? So I was living with Kurt. We weren't married. And he made the decision to move with me. So we sold the house and we purchased some land, a couple of acres outside of Austin, and we built a house and started that process in 2016. And in 2017, I was able to get a transfer with my work from Dallas to the Austin office. And May 1st, we moved in to the place just outside of Austin in Elgin, Texas, just east of Austin. So that's May, first part of May. And May 13th, I turned 60. And looking back, it was probably a little bit more of a milestone than I was acknowledging at that time, but it kind of rocked me a little bit. 60. And the work situation, a lot of things were going on at the office, and I didn't feel comfortable and it just wasn't a good fit for me anymore. So in June, end of June, I retired. I guess I quit. And in October, my mom died. So 2017 was just a big year. A lot of big things happening. The move, the quitting work after forever, the turning 60, mom passing away. So that was in October, and it's kind of a blur. I don't really even remember the holiday season or Christmas of that year. It's kind of a blur. But by the end of 2017, things had settled, the move had settled, the grief was subsiding with mom's passing and kind of being in the new area, which, was not turning out to be exactly where I felt the most comfortable. But we were there. And by the time January rolled around, 2018 now, it was like what I call the honeymoon. I don't know, for those of you that have been following me for a little while, there's like 6 phases of life after career. The first one is the honeymoon, where, oh my God, I felt like the complete bliss of freedom and not having to feel guilty for sleeping in, not having to get dressed if I didn't want to, not having to do anything according to anybody else's schedule. It was just wonderful. And Kurt and I traveled, and we took off. And that year I traveled we saw Niagara Falls, Las Vegas. I spent time in New York, Washington State, and visited France twice. We went to China and Hong Kong. So that year I was away more than I was at home. And it was just a whirlwind, completely detached from responsibility and only kind of taking in experiences, not really processing much of anything. And that second trip to France we made in 2018 was 3 weeks in October. And it was on that trip that I actually let myself accept that, yes, I could have a place in France. The whole freedom of not having the work, of finally being certainly not financially independent. But I had saved enough for a small place, not in Paris, unfortunately. I couldn't even afford a parking space in Paris, unfortunately. But, so I let myself actually say, yes, I'm gonna take a look at some of these places that I have been kind of scouting online for so long. And I called a couple of places and actually went and looked. There was a place just probably not far from Versailles, and Vendôme is the name of the little town. Didn't see anything that fit the budget and or what I was looking at. I had a parameter. I couldn't afford Paris. I couldn't afford really close to Paris. So it was within a 2-hour train ride from Paris. I didn't want to be farther than 2 hours out because I wanted to be able to go there and have lunch and come home, or go there to the museum and come back in the same day. And a couple other things. But so I drew a circle around the map and looked and called a couple places. And one place I called, the woman was very kind and welcoming on the phone. Not a lot of English, but that was okay. We got by. And the place I'd called about was already sold. But she said something else was available if I wanted to come look. It was about an hour and 45-minute drive. So Kurt and I got in the car and drove for an hour and 45 minutes to Beaugency. And we drove around the little village and thought, wow, this is so awesome. It is an historic medieval village. The cobblestone streets, the 12th century chateau. It's right on the Loire River. Oh, it was just beautiful. And so I looked at the place and I walked in, and I walked in and it wasn't like, this is my place. But I walked in and went, this is comfortable. It felt right. It still felt a little out of reach, not because of the price and not because of anything other than me in my head. But I tapped that down and I looked, and I was trying to be, judicious and impartial about what was good about it and what wasn't, and the pros and cons. And I looked at it, and that was that. And Kurt and I continued to walk around the little village, and had something to drink or eat, and talked about it. And we talked about it several more times. The pros were, I loved the little village. It's an 1.5-hour train to Paris from here. It's about a 15-minute walk to the train station from the apartment. It's affordable. I could pay cash for it. It wasn't anything crazy. It was exceptionally large for my budget and the other things that I had seen. It didn't need any major renovation, although it could use a lot of updating. It's not as bright as I would like. It's a north-south exposure. I really wanted something bright and light, and so the coloring isn't that great. Mismatched laminate flooring upstairs, but it's all cosmetic. So for the next 2-3 days, Kurt and I talked about it, and really the only input that he gave me was that he didn't want to stand in the way of my dream. We weren't married at the time. I never got the feeling from him that he would rather me do something different, or because he never said anything other than he wanted me to live my dream. And isn't that what love is about, right? So considering all the other things that we had going on in our life and the other agreements that we had made, and our relationship was strong, and I did it. I signed the papers. So the next summer in 2019, we came for 3 months. We came here to spend the summer. And a lot of things happened between then and the summer in 2019 that kind of played into some of the outcomes of the summer. But basically, Kurt hates it. He doesn't hate France. He dislikes very much living in a small French village. And almost everything about it. It's uncomfortable. It's not air conditioning. It just happened to be like the hottest summer in decades, right? So there were 3 days, maybe 4 days where it got above 100 here with unrelenting, and it was unpleasant to be sure. But everything's small, everything here closes down for lunch for a couple of hours, including the grocery store and the pharmacy and the boulangerie and everything else. It was inconvenience, and he just hated it. So when he left that summer, he's not been back. Oh no, he came back for Thanksgiving. We came back for Thanksgiving. No, that was that year. Hell, I don't know. They're all running together. Did he come back? I think he came back in 2021. But did not like it. Came back, we had a big Thanksgiving dinner. But that was the only time he came back. So there I was now with this place and a partner who was now unhappy with this situation. And the culmination of really not being comfortable in Elgin, Texas. And totally a fish out of water for me. And evidently him too. I never really got that until the latter part of 2019. So, long story short, 2020 happened, right? And everything shut down. And so the things that had not been a problem in a relationship when I traveled and was working, and most of the time we spent together was on the weekends and holidays, living 24/7. And I'm sure I'm not unique in this. The relationship changes when you do not work. And it was a challenge. And 2021 happened, and it just was not a good year. But I came to France. He came, like I said, on Thanksgiving, but I would come, on my own for a month. Not for the summer anymore. 2022 came along, and I came here in October, I think. October, November. And I came back, and we knew we had to do something, he and I, for the relationship. So we decided to move back to Dallas. And we were looking at homes. We have a difference of, what we're looking for. He, again, the convenience is of utmost importance to him. And he was looking at houses that were built, new, ready to walk in and plug your toaster in and be done with it. And I was looking for more of a home, something where I felt comfortable, something that was in an environment, in a neighborhood that felt like a home and safe and, aesthetically pleasing, not high end, but in order to afford something in areas that really I felt comfortable in, we had to look at homes that needed a little more work than he was comfortable with. And we had an argument after we had gotten home from one house hunting excursion. And so he got up the next day, drove to Dallas, bought a house on his own, and he moved out. So more on that whole debacle later, because that was the beginning of yet another pivotal moment. And so that's when I think another pivotal moment where I can live here. I wasn't giving up on the marriage yet. 2019 is when we ended up actually getting married after that summer here. And I think what happened was after that summer, and it was real negative, and we were unhappy with, being where we were in Elgin. And, I guess we felt, let's just get married because we need to hang on to each other and do this together, which was like the stupidest thing ever. So that's how I ended up with the apartment, was that total honeymoon period, feeling free, actually realizing I had the authority, I had the wherewithal. Financially, it was not a wise decision financially. It still isn't. It was half of what I had still had from my retirement, right? I mean, literally took it down, cut it in half. And fortunately, the cost of living here is a lot less, and I can actually afford on my Social Security now on a budget, without a lot of thrills or frills, But that's, I think, what, helped me make the final decision. But I had not made the final decision when he moved out, when Kurt moved out at the beginning of 2023. And it wasn't until really the first of 2024 that I made the official decision and put the real wheels in motion. So that takes us to the January of 2023. I'm not sure how much what happened in 2023 is relative to this move to France, but I ended up putting everything in storage. Moved in with my sister, who lived in the same community where we had sold the house, fortunately. Or unfortunately, I don't know. It is what it is. The universe unfolds as it should, and it's the way it is. So I moved in with my sister, and that was the middle of January. And by May, I thought, I have to do something. And I wasn't ready to give up on the marriage. I wasn't ready to give up on him and everything. So I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I just had to get out. So I loaded the car up with Pablo and my computer and some clothes. And I found an Airbnb type of place that had changed from Airbnb to a furnished rental, like a corporate thing, right downtown Charleston. I didn't know but just a couple of people, and not well. So it was just a complete bungee jump, and I ended up there in June of 2023. So that's it. And it's been 20 minutes. Oh my God, this is like way longer. So just fast forward. And if you've gotten to this point, thank you. And if you want to hear any more about anything else, let me know. Boy, I feel like I've just had a therapy session, right? Gotten it all out. All right. Thank you guys for listening. I'm not going to be going over any more of this stuff. If you have questions about it, I'll address that in another video, but this is done. From here on out, we're going to be going from Charleston back to Austin and then to France, and how all of that shit unfolded. All right. Thanks for being here. Love you guys.